Hi there, I'm Dawn Dancing Otter. I'm a head coach and teacher of the WeWork School of Soul Recovery, an animism based practice focused on trauma recovery. So, today I want to talk about empathy and how empathy can often get weaponized and misused. We're all, or let's say the vast majority of humans, are hardwired for empathy, and this helps to create bonding between caregivers and the vulnerable infant that we were at one point. And at that point, we weren't capable, when we were, little infants, we weren't capable of looking after our needs, nor were we able to project into outcomes. So we were relying heavily on the adults around us to do that thing. So the empathy from the point of view of a baby or a small child is really about, it's really kind of self-centered. It's about creating a bond that will hopefully last a lifetime and create a protective space for maturity to happen. And when that maturity is interrupted via trauma, that maturing process is often runs into obstacles because of early childhood trauma. And in the WeWork school, we would call that soul loss or fragmentation. So when that happens, empathy doesn't really get the opportunity to mature itself into a place of conscious compassion. I mean, it can, certainly with work put in, we can create the context and the authentic nature of compassion to be part of our practice. And compassion requires courage. It requires someone to agree to plug in, to be in unfamiliar territory, which is the walk of another person, that they experience something that you haven't experienced, or maybe you can't even relate to 100%, but that you plug your empathy into the space of knowing that their soul has a destiny, knowing that their being has a walk, and that it knows where it's going. And so their feelings are actually not wrong. Their anger, their sadness, their grief, their frustration, their venting even, none of that is really wrong. It's part and parcel to the experience of grief, of loss, of moving through life and experiencing disappointments and heartbreak. And that if we have the freedom to feel those feelings without having to comfort another person, our process is, I believe, supported in a way that gives it better momentum. However, if we're going through a process that has big emotion, like anger or sadness or grief, and other folk around us in their empathy are actually creating a space where we have to adjust our way of being and our behavior to comfort them in their empathy, in their experience of feeling our feelings, that is actually so limiting. And it's hard to allow for a real process to emerge that is authentic if that's the case. So oftentimes, I believe this is why people tend to isolate themselves when they're going through something like grief or loss, because the people around them might not actually be helping them that much. Because in order for you, and then they might seek actually professional help, because that professional is agreeing to provide that service, is hopefully, if they're doing it well, they're agreeing to provide that service. That's not to say that people can't learn how to transform empathy into compassion, or to hold space for people in a different way that doesn't burden them and weaponize their empathy. But I feel that in general, what I notice with hard emotions and charged emotions, like anger especially, when empathy is really in that sort of immature phase where it doesn't invite the experience of witnessing, and creating safe space for that emotional transformation to happen, for that emotion to move itself, that people will put out that fire very quickly. And it doesn't mean that the anger goes away, it just gets suppressed. And my witnessing is that the more we do those things, we suppress things, we put out these fires, we don't allow the energy to move, we just prolong an inevitable experience, and we create more harm. And there's usually more outcomes of harm rippling out into the people around that angry person or the sad person and the grieving person. So that becomes, I believe, a really stuck kind of feeling. And stuck feelings are really frustrating for the body. They're frustrating, somatically. They're frustrating, like, mentally. They're frustrating on lots of levels. And oftentimes what I see in people who would report that they're experiencing depression, that experience of depression is really a stuck feeling that never got the chance to be witnessed with compassion. Food for thought. Thanks for listening. If you want to find me, I'm at theweaveworkschool.com. If you liked this video, please subscribe and like it. Put your thumbs up to it, and I'll put up another video again soon.